Most people think financial freedom begins when you hit some giant impossible number, $1 million, 2 million, maybe more. That's what we've all been told. You can't live off your investments until you're wealthy enough to not need a job. But that's wrong. Not just a little wrong, wildly, expensively wrong. There is a much lower number, a specific threshold, where compounding finally becomes strong enough to support you. Not in theory, not in some distant future, but right now, in your real life. And once you cross that line, something huge shifts. Your money starts doing a noticeable share of the work. Your savings rate becomes less important. Your stress level drops. And for the first time, financial freedom feels possible instead of imaginary. In this video, we're going to break down the lowest amount you actually need to live off compounding, why it works, and how people reach it far earlier than they expect, even if they're starting from zero. Let's get into it. Section 1. Why everyone overestimates the number. Most people grow up hearing the same story about financial freedom. You'll need millions before you can live off your investments. And because that message gets repeated everywhere, from news headlines to half-baked advice on social media, people automatically accept it as truth. They assume compounding only becomes meaningful once you're rich, and until then, they're stuck grinding forever. But that belief has a hidden cost. It convinces people that financial freedom is out of reach for decades. It makes them think their small progress is pointless. And worst of all, it causes many to give up long before compounding ever has a chance to work. The reality is completely different. Compounding doesn't suddenly wake up at $1 million. It starts producing real acceleration much earlier, at a point where your money can finally grow faster than your effort. Most people overestimate the number because they only think about living fully off investments. They forget there are stages in between. They forget there is a tipping point where compounding becomes strong enough that you no longer have to carry the full financial load yourself. And once you understand that much lower threshold, your entire perspective shifts. You stop feeling behind, you stop feeling hopeless, and you finally see the path that was invisible before. Section 2. The compounding threshold, the true minimum number. In the early stages of investing, compounding feels almost useless. You might earn $20 in a month, maybe $60 in a quarter. It barely moves the needle, and it definitely doesn't feel like something that could ever support your life. And that's where most people misunderstand compounding. It's not supposed to feel powerful at the beginning. It only becomes powerful when you give it enough scale. Not millions, not even hundreds of thousands, just enough for growth to finally matter. There is a specific point where the numbers shift. A point where average market returns begin producing real, recurring income without you doing anything. A point where your portfolio starts covering actual bills, not your entire lifestyle, but enough to make a noticeable difference. That threshold is surprisingly modest. It's the level where normal market growth, around 6 to 8% per year, can generate a few $1,000s annually without shrinking your principal. At this point, compounding can cover things like your groceries for the month, a utility bill, a portion of your rent, a weekend getaway, or simply reducing how much you need to pull from your paycheck. It's not full financial independence. It's financial oxygen, a buffer that makes life lighter. Once your portfolio hits this minimum, compounding stops feeling symbolic and starts feeling useful. You're no longer waiting for a distant finish line. You're beginning to experience the benefit right now, in present tense ways that matter. And from here, every step forward accelerates faster than the step before. Section 3. Why this threshold works. To understand why this minimum number is so powerful, you don't need spreadsheets or financial degrees. You only need 3 simple ideas: how markets grow on average, how much you can take out without hurting your future, and what happens when you let the leftover growth keep compounding. First, markets. Over long periods, not months, not even a single year, but decades, the stock market tends to grow somewhere in the 6 to 10% range annually. Some years it's higher, some years it's negative, but across history, the average settles into that range. That average is what makes compounding possible. Second, sustainable withdrawals. If you want your money to last indefinitely, you can't pull out whatever you feel like. You need a small, safe percentage each year, something your portfolio can realistically replace. That number is usually around 3 to 4% for long-term sustainability. It's conservative, but safe. And that brings us to the third piece, reinvested growth. This is the magic ingredient most people overlook. Imagine your portfolio grows by 7%, and you take out 3% to help cover your expenses. The remaining 4% stays in the portfolio. It doesn't sit there quietly, it compounds. It builds a larger base for next year's growth. Once your portfolio can regrow what you take out each year, you aren't living off savings anymore. You're living off compounding. Your withdrawals become self-replenishing. This is why hitting that minimum threshold matters so much. Before that point, every dollar you withdraw slows your progress. After that point, your portfolio can heal itself, sometimes even grow faster than you're taking from it. That's the moment where money stops being something you constantly feed and starts being something that quietly works behind the scenes, rebuilding itself while you live your life. Section 4. Examples of how life changes at this number. Once you reach this minimum compounding threshold, something subtle but life-changing happens. Your portfolio finally starts participating in the work. You're no longer dragging the entire weight of your future up the mountain by yourself. For the first time, you can work a little less without feeling like you're ruining your retirement. Maybe that means dropping a shift, choosing a job you actually like even if it pays less, or simply breathing easier, knowing you're not dependent on every single paycheck. Your portfolio is quietly covering part of your lifestyle in the background. Another shift happens in your mindset. You stop obsessing over how much you save every month because you finally see the truth. Time in the market is doing more heavy lifting than your savings rate ever could. Even if you pause contributions for a bit, the compounding engine keeps moving forward. You don't feel like you're constantly behind anymore. The emotional relief is real. Before this moment, every dollar feels like a battle. After this moment, you feel the slope tilt in your favor. The portfolio starts creating gains that you used to spend months trying to save. You look at the numbers and realize they grew more this year than you contributed. And that changes how you think about your future. And the best part? Withdrawing small amounts doesn't feel dangerous anymore. You're not shrinking your nest egg. You're simply skimming off the top of what it regrew on its own. The whole machine keeps moving, even while you reap some of the benefits. This is the point where your financial life stops feeling like a grind and starts feeling like a partnership between you and your money. Section 5. 3 fastest paths to reach this threshold. There are dozens of ways to grow wealth, but only 3 reliably pull people to this compounding threshold the fastest. And the good news? None of them require perfection, just steady repetition. Path 1 is high consistency saving. This is the slow, quiet approach that works even when life feels chaotic. You choose a small amount you can commit to every month, automate it, and let time do the rest. You don't need huge contributions. What matters is that the deposits happen whether you feel motivated or not. Consistency beats intensity every time. Path 2 is income expansion. At some point, cutting more expenses stops moving the needle, but increasing your earning power through raises, skill building, side income, or small promotions creates new fuel. And when you funnel that new income into your investments, instead of letting lifestyle creep absorb it, your timeline accelerates dramatically. Even an extra few $100s a month can turn a 10-year climb into a 5-year one. Path 3 is the windfall strategy. Most people treat bonuses, tax refunds, or unexpected cash as spending money. But if you redirect even half of those amounts straight into your investments, you jump forward on the timeline instantly. These irregular boosts, the money you weren't counting on anyway, can shave years off the journey. Each of these paths works on its own. Together, they're incredibly powerful. And the best part? None of them require massive sacrifice. You don't need perfect discipline, perfect timing, or perfect knowledge. You just need to repeat the actions that move you forward, over and over, until compounding takes over the heavy lifting. Most people spend their entire lives believing financial freedom requires millions. But the truth is far simpler. Once you reach the minimum threshold, where compounding can replace even a small part of your income, everything changes. Your stress drops, your timeline shortens, and for the first time, your money starts moving faster than you do. That number isn't the finish line. It's the moment the wind finally shifts behind you. From here on, your portfolio grows without needing permission from your schedule, your paycheck, or your willpower. You're no longer carrying the entire journey alone. You've built a machine that will keep working whether you do or not. So here's your next step. Choose a path: consistent saving, income expansion, or using your windfalls, and commit to one action this week. One move that gets you closer to that threshold. Because once you cross it, your entire financial life feels lighter. Comment below and tell me this. Which path are you taking first? Saving more consistently, boosting your income, or using windfalls to accelerate your progress? Your answer might be the exact spark someone else needs to start.